my name's Jean Tinsley and I'm a director with Sheffield Renewables Limited. I'm a volunteer.
Sheffield Renewables, where did that spring from?
It was started by a group of volunteers as far back as 2007, 2008. It was a bit of a spin-off from Sheffield Campaign Against Climate Change by a group of volunteers who wanted to actually do something rather than campaign. And their idea was to use water power for renewable electricity, as there was a history of water power in Sheffield from years ago. We had some feasibility studies done that showed we could set ourselves up as an industrial and providence society, which meant that we could raise money through community shares. And the idea was that we'd have about half community shares and half loan. We started off with a very small share issue amongst the volunteers, and we raised about £16,000 from that, and some money from Key Fund. They put some share capital in, and then we got some funding from the council for core costs. Then we had what we called an early bird share offer, which was only open to people who'd already expressed an interest in investing with us. And from that we raised £62,000. And then we had some problems with core funding, so we asked if any of those people would be willing to put their money at risk. And from that we had £21,000 that we could spend on our core costs to keep us going until we ran the main share issue, which was run at the end of 2012, when we raised just about £200,000 towards our capital costs.
So what was the secret of that success? How did you manage to raise that much from the community?
Well, again, we still had our potential investor list. We'd got lots of contacts in the green organisations in Sheffield, and all of them were willing to send out details of the share issue to all of their contacts. We got quite a lot of free publicity. We only actually took out one paid for advertisement in Clean Slate, the magazine from the Centre for Alternative Technology. All the rest was free, press releases and things like that. We got quite a lot of that in the local press, on the local radio. And again, we were going around all the festivals that we could in Sheffield and making people aware of the share issue.
Okay.
I think it was mostly through the networks, and we had some articles in The Guardian, so we had a couple of national articles. But when we did an analysis of all the investors, 200 of them were local to Sheffield and South Yorkshire, and 50 were national.
What was the average investment?
It worked out £1,000 average investment.
Okay. And what were the projects you were hoping to fund at that time?
We had two water power projects, one both on the River Don. One was a large project on the biggest weir on the River Don, which was near Meadowhall, called Jordan Dam. That was the biggest dam on the weir, and that would have produced enough electricity for 80 houses. And then we had a smaller project at Kelham Island, which is near the Industrial Museum, and that was more of an educational project, a showcase, because it's in the city centre. And that was going to be there's a wheel pit already there, and we would put a water wheel back in the wheel pit, and that would have only produced enough electricity for 20 homes.
And where are those projects now? What's happened?
Kelham Island was always having to go on the back burner because it wouldn't produce an income for us. As I say, it was more of an educational project. We did look at developing it with a green housing company who are building some green houses on site, but at the moment that's had to be put to sleep because they're busy building the homes and we haven't got a resource to develop it. Jordan's Dam hit some problems at the end of last year, beginning of this year, when first of all, when we went out to tender, the price came back much higher than we thought it would be, and it looked like that was going to cause us problems being actually able to afford it. And then the Environment Agency asked for a second fish pass. We'd already got plans for one fish pass that was going next to the Archimedes screw, but they came back and asked for a second fish pass on the dam to allow upstream and downstream migration of fish. And we just ran out of resource to be able to follow this through and either argue the Environment Agency down or produce a fish pass that would meet their requirements. So again, we've had to put that on hold.
So you've got a couple of £100,000 that you've raised in the community share issue.
Yes.
What are you going to do with it?
Our annual general meeting was at the end of January, and at that point we weren't sure what was happening. We were hoping to get the costs of for building Jordan's Dam down by having talks with the contractor. But when that didn't look as if that was going to be possible, and when the extra fish pass problems were thrown up, we called a special general meeting of all of our investors and put forward the idea of moving into solar PV, because that would be something that we could that could happen quite quickly and that would bring us in an income that would mean that our investors would start to get a small dividend and we'd have enough of a small income to keep the organisation running. And the shareholders overwhelmingly voted in favour of that. There were some objections and a few people have taken their money out, but they gave us the go-ahead to proceed with solar PV, and that's where we are at the moment. We've got a couple of sites that we're hoping to move ahead with quite soon and hopefully have our first solar PV project up and running by the end of the summer, and that would be on a community building with about 50 kilowatts of solar PV for the first project.